Hey up everybody and welcome back. Well, we're about on the last lap. Some finishing off jobs to do, and then oh, my nose is itchy. I might sneeze during this. Then we'll just have to wait for the petrol tank and everything will be finished. So what are we going to do today? We're going to shorten this throttle cable. I had someone ask me about that. I was planning to show you that anyway. Then we've got another cable to make, the front brake cable, because of the longer forks and I think what a slightly taller handlebars than this model would have had on it. The brake cable I got wasn't long enough. It was actually an NOS brake cable. So what I've done is I've taken the various fittings off it. I've unmade it, if you like. I've disassembled it, taken the fittings off it, and we will make a new cable for that. Then we're going to do a mounting for the speedometer. I have a mounting for it which I will show you, and I'll explain why we're not going to use it. And then finally, what we're going to do this week, I think we'll get it all done, is I was out here oh, pardon me. I was out here yesterday just tidying up, you know, end of project, there's stuff all over. And I've decided I'm going to build an actual airbox to go inside the left-hand side panel, which is the way this C15 was. As I mentioned, there's a thing, I think it was the coffin style term. Anyway, we're going to build an air filter box to go inside there. Then we'll pop the saddle on, and all we're going to do is wait for the tank, which is somewhere on its way, but as everything else is delayed. In fact, the screws, God knows, how long ago did I mention the screws to go in here and that it wasn't the right order and I'd get in touch with them? The people who sent that are about 50 miles away, and I still got the email to say they'd sent them. I still haven't got them. It's taking 2-3 weeks to come 50 miles here. That nice Mr. DeJoy really screwed up the US Postal Service. Alright, so you know what we're going to do, so let's get on and do it. Right then, this is where we got to last week. So, this would go round the wheel and into there, so it's that much too long. Because we've got an adjuster, we'll shorten this out the cable. As I said, we're not actually shortening the cable because, as you can see, you know, with the, well, you can't see much, but it's long enough to go from there to inside the carburetor. It's just this outer is too long, so it won't go there. So we're just shortening the outer and not the inner. So what we need is, I'll have to switch you off. A ruler is what we need. So that's, if you like, at its resting position. Then it's going to go like that to switch on. To pull it round. So we're going to have to go round the wheel and through there. Put the adjuster in. It actually fits into the adjuster a little bit, of course, so we're just going to take it to about there, and then any extra we can take up with the adjuster. So we will need to take off 2.5 inches. Not 2 inches. My God, Michael. Why is my measuring so atrocious? Right, we're going from there to there. 2 inches. We're going to take 2 inches off it. So let's go and do that. Now there are two ways we can shorten an outer. What I'm going to do is to actually unsolder this nipple. So I'll unsolder the nipple, then I can just slide the outer off, cut it, slide it back on, put a new ferrule thing on, and your job's done. You've shortened it, you solder your nipple back on there. Now, if you don't want to start taking the nipples off, what you can also do is you mark this, cut it with a hacksaw. Now this is a spiral inside there. Hang on a second. I've just been and got an old cable and broken the end off it to show you. This outer is actually a spiral, and then with this black covering on. So what you would do is you would saw through till you've cut through the spiral, and it will pull away. Then you get the black stuff off. You can just get that off with a knife, and you can unwind the spiral a bit like that, and you'll find then you can wind it off the cable. Because the only trouble with doing it that way is you're not going to be able to put a ferrule on. Well, what you may be lucky at actually, and it has in this case, is the ferrule. If the ferrule isn't on too tight, it will actually, see that's come off there? You can try and pull the ferrule off first, then cut this piece out, and then just slide your ferrule back on. But as I say, what we're going to do is unsolder the nipple and cut it that way. Now I've unsoldered the nipple, so we can take that off and then slide our inner. Oh, it's a bit tight. Hang on, let me just file some of that solder off. Now that's left that end nicely tinned for when we have to solder it back on. So we'll pull that through. I've measured this to 2 inches. 2 inches. Checked it. Now you could do this with a cutting disc or whatever, but we're just going to. And as I said, we're not actually even going to saw all the way through, because we've just got to saw through the one part of that spiral and then the rest of it. There we go. Hopefully that will just, no. See what happens is, and I guess it's with this because you should really, there are special clippers that just bite it off, but the spiral part has just turned over a little bit, so all we need is to poke something in there to put it back where it should be. Now I just poke that in, and there we go. So that's fine. So let's stick that out a little bit. That back on there. I'm going to shave back the black a little bit just to put that on. So let me do that. And there it is with the that pushed on there and the nipple on here and everything working nicely. I didn't show you this because when we make the other cable I'll go over putting the nipples on. I'll put it on there. I'll go around the little wheel. Let's turn around a little. Come on, come on. There it goes. Goes in there. As I say, we've got some adjustment here, so we're fine. So that worked a treat. Now the next thing is the hardest job of the lot, which I won't bore you with watching my frustration, but what it is getting that bit through that little hole, because that's the cover for there. So let me struggle through this and then we'll show you that finished. Alright, that actually went on a lot easier than it usually does, but if I'd have filmed it I'd have been struggling and struggling and struggling. So that goes in there. That goes in there. That just goes in there like that. Come on. That goes around a little wheel. So there like that. that. And there we are. That works. Then we put that on there. We put that on there. Come on now. Why is this being so awkward today? Go. Screwdriver out in the pocket. I put that wheel in the wrong way around. I think I might have. Hang on. No, I'm sure the little thing on the bronze bush goes to the bottom. We can always take it off and change it later. Has that gone on right? Yeah, it's touching all the way around. It does feel a little bit tight though. Maybe fine tune that a little bit more. Then that goes on there like that. And there we are. Now then, let me pull you back slightly. When we're done, we'll have the front brake here with the brake cable. Don't you think that looks better than this coming out of here and hanging down there and going into the tank? I do. Okay, so next thing is front brake cable. This is everything we need to make our cable. We've got cable outer, we've got inner cable. These are the two pieces that I took off. I mean, you could use a new nipple, but that one's fine. That's the bottom piece, which goes onto the brake arm. There's the adjuster. It's the type, it's got a sort of scallop on which matches into the perch so that this won't unscrew. And then we have the ferrules that go on there to tidy the ends up. Okay, so let's go on. What we're going to do is we're going to put this on here. Then we will go and try it on the bike and measure how much of this we need to start with, and then we'll measure how much, we'll offer this up to the bike and see how much outer casing we need. Now I hope this won't be too far away for you to be able to see everything, but you need to be able to see the whole thing. Okay. This, here's a proviso if you like. This is the way I do it. Now when I've noticed a couple of times when I've done cables, I get people saying you should have done it this way, you should do that. All I can say is I have done lots and lots of cables like this. I've never had the end come off any of them. So I've soldered that on there. We're going to put that down. Let me just find something because I haven't got a pin. That'll do. We're going to route this through the way it goes. So that goes on there. Like that. Then it comes up through this mounting here. Yes, it's in there. Then route it up whichever way you want it to come. So I think we'll come up through there. You're not going to cut this to the right length straight away. What we're going to do is we're going to cut it long. then we need enough to come in here to that. So there's some extra cable. Then you mark that. Now then, there are several ways to cut this, but generally, if you have a really good pair of nippers, and you put it right into the bottom, and you don't mess about, you give it a good, it will cut it without fraying the ends. Now you're definitely too far away to see that the end isn't frayed there. So what we're going to do now is run this up. It'll probably go like that, and it'll go into there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do now is do exactly the same thing with the outer, and again it's just to get it roughly the right length, because this is going to be shorter. So that's going to go from, what we'll do, we'll take that out of there. That's going to go from in there. Again, we know it's going to go up there. And it's going to go, again, as I say, we're going to cut it long. Now then, this we'll take over, put in the vise. We'll cut it with a hacksaw and then clean the end up. So let me go and do that, and then I'll come back and we'll check to get more exact lengths. So I've cut this to length, and as I say, I used a hacksaw. Now the reason I use a hacksaw is because this is nylon lined, or Teflon, or whatever the particular casing you're buying is. And if you use something like a cutting wheel, and you don't cut it reasonably quickly so that the end heats up, it'll melt the plastic, and then you won't be able to get the inner wire through. Okay? Now we come to the most important, the most important part of making a cable. And it's got nothing to do with the strength of the cable or anything else, and everything to do with your peace of mind. Because we have various things to put on, and I speak from personal experience here, there's nothing worse than finishing a cable, getting the nipples on both ends and realising you've forgotten to put an adjuster on or something like that, because then you've got to unsolder the nipple and So what have we got? Right, where's the piece I cut? What am I doing with the piece I cut? Oh, you're all saying, there it is, Michael, there it is, it's still on the bike. Right, so we have that part to go on. Right, because that's going to go in there. Come on now. Have a look at that. There we go. Yep. So that goes on there like that. And that will go all the way through to go into there. Oh, I don't like the way that goes over there. We'll have to do something about that. It's not pointing straight down at it. Of course, we've moved that over, so I'll probably have to bend this a little bit to get a better shot of that. Now you'll notice there's not a lot sticking out of this end. That's because we didn't cut this exactly the length. So we're thinking we want it to go up there and into there like that. Right? So the next thing we want, actually I think that's going to be about the right length. So in truth I should have cut this a bit longer. But anyway, that's going to go on there like that. And don't, these are not the split adjusters. So that's going to go on there like that. And that is going to go there like that. And that is just long enough. Right, actually I can cut a little bit off this to give myself a little bit more inner cable, because we're just about where we should be. But there's the cable. It's as simple as that. It's not difficult to make cables. Now of course the big thing is to make a good soldered joint on here. We're going to go and put this nipple on and I'll explain the way it works, okay? Now we've got everything cut to length and we've checked yet again that everything is on the cable that should be on. We've got our ferrule at this end, we've got our ferrule at this end, we've got our adjuster. Right, now then, what we are going to do is we're going to put this nipple on. Now I'm going to use this nipple because it's been what's the word? It's tinned on the inside because it's the one I pulled off. So it should go on nicely. Now we're going to use, don't use electrical solder, it's too soft. You're going to need this, well, it's basically a general purpose solder, but it's a harder solder. But the big thing is, we're not so much going to solder the cable to the nipple. What we're going to do is we're going to push it down. We're going to open this out to make it look like a little tree with branches, and then pull this up onto there tight. And when the solder goes in, not only is it going to go down and solder the nipple to the cable, but it's going to fill in around all those branches and make a ball, basically, because you'll notice this is sort of countersunk. And then that ball is going to be too big. Even if the solder here doesn't hold, the ball is too big to go through the hole, so the nipple won't pull off. Right? So if you've got half decent fingernails, you can do it with your fingernails, or you do it with a blade. If you do it with your fingernails, be careful you don't push your finger down or you'll regret it. I'll tell you what, I see people with, I know they're hard to keep clean and everything, but I see people with fingernails cut right back. I don't know how they can ever pick anything up. My dad, who worked in the steelworks, funnily enough, number 9 mil, the same as me, he had an industrial accident. He was guiding a big steel beam with a crane and it squashed against the other beam and squashed the ends of 3 fingers. The only good thing that came out of that was it actually, the money he got for it paid for us to have an inside bathroom, so I didn't have to walk to the bottom of the yard to have a pee. What was I going to say? But yeah, it sort of did away with his nails and sort of flattened the ends of his fingers, and I mean, he could never pick anything up after that. Right, so you see how this is all opened out. Now you push that up there. Actually, I'll open it a little bit. It needs to be bent out just a fraction more. I've opened all the threads up, but right. So there we go. That's going to be our little ball of solder. So first thing we'll do is we'll put some flux on to make sure it all gets cleaned up. When the flux melts, it'll flow right down through there. Clean everything. And again, it's just like plumbing. You want it to flow. So there's the flux melting. Got it too hot, the solder ran through. Still running through. Actually, I shouldn't be using map, it's a bit hot. Oh, come on. You know, this happened the last time I was doing one of these. And it really made it look like I didn't know what I was doing. Let's use the little propane one. But as you keep saying, you like it warts and all, so you know you get plenty of warts with me. You can hear that, it's a much quieter, gentler flame. There we go. That's more like it. Alright. Now we just let that cool down. Because we're, as I say, we're a bit blobby. When you do it, you'll make a perfect job of it. Oh. God. Why is it whenever I film doing a cable, everything goes wrong? It's slid down, I don't want it down that far. Tell it's getting near lunchtime, can't you? Leftovers today. You want to run out of propane now. There we go. Alright, let's let it cool down. Right, well, I've cleaned up the end of that. Make sure it fits in there. Even these brand new made in the UK ones, I had to foul the inside a little bit to get this to fit. Okay, so we are going to go down there. Slot goes there. I have bent this a little bit to get the pull better. It needs a little bit more, but just put that in there for now. Right, now then, how do we get this in here? Right. Oops. We thought that looked short. How are we going to get that in there? Let me bring you closer and I'll show you. Now I've seen people struggling to get cables on the handlebar levers, particularly when they're just freshly made. You've got new brake shoes and everything in, so they're sort of at the limit. And what you'll see them do is, they'll put that in there, and then commonest one is to sort of try and get that to pull a little bit and then pull it back quickly and push it in there. This is how you do it. Take the blade off the perch. Right? You put that in there. Well, actually, no you don't. You put that in there. See, I'm not even thinking myself now. Look, put that in there. Then you put that in there. Cable in. And then you just go like that. And it's done. There's no pushing, no pulling. Not trying to stretch things. In it goes. Put your lock nut on the other side. If you find the cable pull is very hard sometimes, because of the way these are made, the way they're folded over, if you over tighten this, you clamp it up. So you might find you can just slacken this off a little and it'll work easier, because that's why the lock nut's on the back. You see, you can set that and then fasten up your lock nut, and you don't have to screw the screw part in tight. That's going to go up there like that. Position, the final position of this, of course, depends on the person who's riding it. Should really be so that when you're sitting there, your hands are straight, so you're not bent down or you're not up. And there we are. Voila. Now, as I said, we've got brand new shoes and everything in, so enough cable for it to move. If you're worried that this is pulled down, hang on. If you're worried that this is going to tighten up when I unfasten it and the forks spring up, this is just in on loose. Let me show you. See, that's not on there, and we've got plenty of that. Right. Next thing is speedometer. On the original 59 BSA, and I guess for a couple of years after, they didn't have a separate headlamp. All this, the ears here, would be part of a sheet metal cowling. I don't know if BSA had a name for it. Triumph called it a nacelle. Aeronautic term for you there. So, with these forks on, luckily I've got the mounting points for the later mounting, such as on the Victor Specials and what have you. And what there was this piece, which bolted onto the top there, and then the speedometer bolted onto that. Now you'll notice that this is a lot bigger than the speedo. That's because this speedo should go into sort of big rubber sleeve, which then bolts onto here. Well, I even had one on my list of parts to buy, but I got one out from off a Victor Special, and when I looked at it, it was just too bulky for the look of this. So I decided not to use that. Well, first of all, I was going to see the line around it. I was going to cut that to fit. But then I decided, no, I'd rather make one to keep ourselves sort of more on the same scale as this front end. So what I'm going to do, I've already marked it out, so I'll show you in a minute, but we're going to mount this onto a piece of 1/8 inch alloy plate, which is going to be flat, then it's going to be bent down, then it's going to be bent forward. That'll bolt onto there, that'll bolt onto that, and that gives us the right clearance behind the headlamp and everything for the speedo cable, which has actually fallen down. So let's go and have a look at the piece of 1/8 inch alloy that I've marked out. This is the piece of alloy here. I used the spray-on die-chem this time because I was just going to start brushing it, and I thought, no, wait a minute, I've got an aerosol. So this here is the size of the base of that. There's the centre hole for the speedo cable. That and that, actually I haven't popped them yet, that's where the two mounting bolts go. And then this and this are the mounting bolts to go onto the top yoke. And there are our bend lines. So as I said, this is going to be bent that way, and that's going to be bent underneath it to keep everything nice and tight. So what I still need to do, because I don't have the thick rubber base, now I haven't decided about a light yet, we'll look into that later. I've got to drill 3 holes for that as well. What I might actually do is cut a triangle. We'll see, because the holes are going to, in fact I think that would be better. Anyway, the way I'm going to find where these are is that I'm going to drill this and then make a cardboard template with that hole and these holes. And then I can pop the cardboard template on and just press it and find out where they are. Then I'll transfer that to this. And then we'll drill the 3 holes. Because you see the size of this, that's not actually the size of the hole I want, because there's the knurled ring that we screw on to hold the cable on, so it's actually bigger than that. I think that's 1/2 inch and the ring is actually 3/4, something like that. So let me pop these two before I forget. Then we'll drill the holes. I'm going to drill all the holes before I bend it up, because drilling holes in pieces that are bent sometimes is difficult. So let me pop that and drill some holes, and then we'll come back. Right, I've drilled the holes. I did drill that just to 1/2 inch because it struck me that that screw up, that knurled ring doesn't go all the way up flat. So there's those two, right, and that's in the centre there. So what I'm going to do now is just make a little cardboard template that has these 3 holes in it, so I can drop it down onto there and mark these. I don't think, I mean, I could try it. Well, it almost does, but better to be safe than sorry. There's our bit of cardboard, so hopefully there's one. There's another. See, for those people who keep their hands clean when they're working, you can't do this if your hands are clean. See the outlines of those 3, and actually they're even clearer on this side. So let me punch them. You know, whoops, can you see that? There it is. Should I just cut that out as a triangle? Let's get it marked and we'll look at the alloy. I don't want to cut too much metal away. There I've made just a quick cardboard template that mounted on those 3, and I've cut out round there. Now if you're wondering what these things are, where these 3 screws are, you see there's rubber in there. They're actually the mounts for the instrument itself in the instrument case. So that's why they're rubber mounted, so that the gubbins inside's got some room to shake around, a little vibration isolation. So, oh, there goes the compressor. I hope you can still hear me. Hold on. Alright, it's gone off. So I've transferred those to here, and you may notice that they aren't actually sort of equidistant. It is a triangle, but it's not centered on that really, because these of course have got to be just where they are on the actual instrument itself. So with all the various bits of machinery in there, I'm sure they've just put those holes where they could fit them in, or those mountings. So the question is, do we drill out 3 holes? They're just over 1/2 inch. Or do we draw some straight lines, cut that out as a triangle? Let's see if we can drill the holes first, and then if we don't like that, we can just cut across. It wasn't 100% accurate, but I only had to massage them a little bit. So that goes on like that. So now I think I'll cut this out and we'll do our bending and see what it looks like. So I've cut it to shape now. That is going to go on there, like that. Right, now it's going to go on there, like that. Because as I mentioned, those things aren't symmetrical on the other side. Well, that's good actually, because I want to bend it on those lines. So as I say, what I'm going to do is bend that up 90 degrees and then the top over. I think what I might do is put a little bit of put the split rubber trim round there, and that'll even give it something to settle onto. So let's go and put it in the brake. Now I came up against a slight problem here bending it, because this wouldn't bridge the angle to go in there. So what you're supposed to do is sort of have slightly smaller and smaller pieces of angle iron stacked in there to bring it across. So what I've done is I've put a piece of rod in the bottom to fill the space, and I've put these two little V-blocks in, and we're going to use that. So hopefully this will work. Okay, so as I say, I've got a bit of rod underneath them because obviously they had a chance of slipping on the angle, so hopefully that will well, I'm impressed. Right, let's check that and see if it's square. I'll have to go and get my little square is what I was going to say. Nope, not far enough yet. I guess it's got to go right down at the thing. It just looked as if it was getting close to being right angled. Well, that should be it. It's touching. It's flat up against both sides of the V in there. Yeah, that'll do. Right. Might as well leave them in and use it to do this. Oh, there's a snow plough going past. I think that should be it. Are you still recording? Yeah. Couldn't remember whether I'd switched you back on or not. Not quite, but you know, that might work. Let's go and try it. No, I don't like the look of that. But by taking them out, what's happening, you see, is as that bends up, this is catching on the back side. But I think without that in, I might be able to get to sort of bend it up more. I might have a little bit more clearance on the back side. Let's see. Alright, let's see if those are now top and bottoms parallel. Now you see what's happened is I've caught that and that's bent it out. That might be close. Let me have a look. The problem is the way the headlamp is. I can't have this at an angle, it's got to be flat. So what I've done is I've put in roughly the same thickness as that. Let's see if we can I think that'll be all right. Let's go over to the bike. All right. For a minute there I was worried the little bolts would be too long and I couldn't get them in. But that's why I measured this amount of rise, so that I could. Okay, that goes in there like that. I know you can't see, but I've got to get this one started. There we go. So that one goes in like that. I suppose if I'd have used ones with, take the Allen, except, no, these are BSC, so I don't have any. I was thinking I could drill a little hole in the top here and put the Allen key in. Come on now, get started. There we go. Now, should I do this in black or should I polish it? I think I'll polish it. You're really getting some good views of my hand today. Okay. Well, that can get fastened down. Like that. That, and that goes on there like that. And the speedometer cable is going to be awkward. Crikey, it's gone 5 o'clock. Surprising how long it can take to do little see, the thing here is speedo cables, you can't put bends. Well, you can put a bend in, but not like a brake cable, so you've got to have pretty straight runs whenever possible. Yes, that'll be fine. All right, well, that's it. I will mask that up and do it in black, polish that up. Let me put my glasses on so I can see. Oh yeah, that looks fine. Nothing fouls anything else. Very good. All right, that's it for today. See you tomorrow. Well, this might get a little confusing now because Saturday morning, last night I was doing the video and I found that I'd filmed an awful lot. So we're going to mount this and that's going to be it for this week. And what I was working on was the airbox. So next week, when you're watching me do the airbox, I might make references to days or things that have actually already happened. So these little mounting screws are 2BA. Now I've decided against putting a light in here for the same reasons for some of my other decisions, in that I don't see this bike ever being ridden after dark. Now I left enough of the green wire that goes to the back light that's sort of on, that's live when the lights are turned on, so that in the future, if anybody wanted to, they could just connect in down there and put one on. But the original bike didn't have one. It had the slightly different speedometer. What can you see there? Yeah, it had a slightly different speedometer where instead of it being a push fit, it's screwed, the light's screwed on. So they've got it screwed on, I think, with a little plug-in. Now this last nut, I maybe should have put this on before I put the clock on there. Yeah, I think so. Let me take the clock off. You'll find whenever you make something like this that it'll go together easier one way. So it's much easier to put that on there and that on there without that being mounted. It's still not completely easy, but at least I'm not trying to do it upside down. I can put the nut on. Is that on there? Yes. Just a little tight for finger ends in such an awkward spot. So okay, let me tighten these two up and put this back on. So the last thing we have to do with this is put the speedometer cable on. When I've got this on, we're going to go down to the actual gearbox, for want of a better term, on the rear wheel, because I want to show something that is worth noting. I moved you around there because I thought I'd be in the way here, but my hand's still in the way, isn't it? I don't think that's any better for you. Well, these don't have to be incredibly tight. Right, now then, can you see from there? Let me move the wheel around a little. That's what I was saying about the cable. You see, it curves a little bit, but if I'd have had this up a little, so it's pointing to the rider, which, you know, looks nice, but it would have made the cable come up against this. Could have been done with maybe a little bit further round. I wonder if I can just bend that a little. It's not touching the headlights, so that's all right. Okay, let me go and show you something on the back wheel. So, we have the drive here on the rear wheel. Now, on the photograph I have of the C15T, this actually comes up and goes along the top of the crankcases. But that was the model where the exhaust came on the outside. So here, we can't do it, I don't think. Maybe, but anyway, the speedo cable I got was for the Roadster, so it goes underneath. Now the thing I want to point out is, if you have a loose-ish one that's a bit longer than this and you want to fasten it up out the way, if you fasten it anywhere along the swinging arm here, that's fine, because as the wheel moves, the distance between here and wherever you fasten it will always be the same. But if you fastened it down here and fastened it tight, then when the wheel moved, the distance would change and it would start to pull, and you can damage that end. So if you're going, wherever you're going to fasten it, make sure it's loose enough that this can move, that there's some play in this, or at the very least, if there isn't a lot of play, when you put your cable tie or whatever on here, say, don't tighten it. Leave it nice and slack so it can move. Right? That's just a minor thing. Right, so that's it for this week. As I say, I have actually done more work. I have made the airbox, but you'll see that next week because I think we're already up to about near enough 50 minutes. Anyway, one thing I did decide from last week was it's better for me to do the comments at the end of the video, because at the beginning of the video, generally I come out on a Monday, I don't really have any comments, or very few. So I thought that was a good idea, and I wrote them all down, and I've left the bloody things up at the house. So I'm not going to tromp through the snow to get them. There was a couple about the carburetor. One person asked, was the flange out of shape? Because, as he mentioned, it might just be an optical illusion, but it looks as if it was thicker at the top than the bottom. The flange is fine, it's perfect, so it must have been just the way it was filmed. The other one was someone mentioned a gasket and the O-ring. The first piece I put on wasn't a gasket. It's a piece of Tufnol, which is a phenolic resin, and it's there as a heat barrier from the cylinder head to the carburetor. I also had several people mention the valve covers. I pointed out to you that they were chewed up, and everybody said, you know, oh, you can't put those chewed up ones on. So, alright, next week we'll find a way to dress these up. Or actually what I might do is just have a look in my box and find a better pair, and then maybe at some other time we'll talk about dressing them up if they're the only ones you've got. Oh God, what else was mentioned? Don't remember. So we'll have to, I'll either answer them or we'll talk about them next week. So next week, well, as I say, I've already got the airbox made, so you'll see that getting put on. We'll put the saddle on. If the screws have come, I might just use, I have an old, really nasty old B40 engine. I could take the case screws from the primary chain case out of that and just use them, so I can put that side on and put some oil in and everything. Because there isn't a lot to do for next week. So what we will do is, I'm doing a couple of little jobs on the BSA trials bike, so I got the tank off. I'll put the tank on just to supply some petrol, and we'll see about getting it running. Alright, so until then, you stay safe and enjoy yourselves.